In the summer of 2022, I was fortunate enough to solo travel around Europe for 3 months, and during that time, I stayed exclusively in hostels. So, given that it's almost 2 years to the date, I was curious and wanted to see what the hostel prices had gone up to. So, I've made a spreadsheet and listed out all the different prices, and in this video, I wanted to go through that spreadsheet with you just so you guys can have a look and see how the prices have changed since I traveled 2 years ago to today's date. So before I get started and show you the actual differences in the prices, there's just a couple of things that we should keep in mind. The first one is that obviously inflation has occurred. I'm not sure on the exact amount, but inflation has definitely occurred, meaning that prices will naturally cost more as the years progress. The next thing to consider is that the exchange rate, as of currently reporting, is about 10% less than what it was 2 years ago, meaning that basically the currency's buying power is 10% less. The third point is one that's I feel quite important, is that the days and the dates aren't going to align in terms of actual days. So for instance, August the 1st might have been a Saturday in 2022. But in 2024, that may be like a Wednesday, for instance. And why this is important is that obviously the prices for hostels are going to be more on weekends. But since there are a lot of different hostels I stayed at, obviously in 2022 I did stay at hostels over the weekends. And then naturally in 2024 you would also stay over the weekend in some hostels as well. So in terms of calculation, it should all average out at the end of the day. And then one thing I'd like you guys to just guess before I do go into the actual prices is, which hostel do you guys think is the most expensive? So I have obviously seen this, and it was honestly a surprise to me when I did do this calculation. But when I did a bit of research and understood why the prices were as much as they are, it made much more sense, but the answer will surprise you. Alright, so without any further ado, let's have a look at the prices. Alright, so I am a sucker for a good spreadsheet, and what I've done here is I've written all the locations that I stayed at in my 2022 trip. So I've got the location, the specific hostel as well, the room. So the room is important because usually the less beds in the room, usually the more expensive it will be. I've got the dates, the amount of nights I was there, and then I got the 2022 prices per night, as well as the total price that I paid. So let's go through them one by one, and we can see which prices have changed how much. So the first one, London. So this has gone from $61.24 per night to $91.41. So almost a 50% change in price in 2 years is honestly crazy to think about. I wouldn't be surprised if like a bit further out you could get like budget hotels for cheaper than this. So I'm not sure why London's like going crazy, but 49% is very, very steep. Paris 187%. So this one was surprising to me. Like I first thought like, did I do an error? But then I looked on Hostel World and it was definitely the price for this room. But the reason for this is, I believe, the Paris Olympics are going to be happening, and naturally with that happening there's going to be a lot of demand for accommodation, and hostels are no exception. So that's the reason for this huge price, 187%. Lisbon went from $67.46 per night to $88.37. 31%. It's alright. Lisbon is known to be a more affordable city in Europe, so it is kind of sad to see that the prices have crept up quite a bit, but at the end of the day, what can you do? Madrid went from $60 to $55, which is amazing. So I believe the reason for this is primarily because I probably stayed over the weekend in 2022, and the 2024 dates probably don't align exactly with a weekend. But it is, once again, great to see that the price is more or less the same. Barcelona, gone up 40%. Same, not too bad, but not too good either. Barcelona is a very touristy city, so honestly, if I'm looking at it again, Barcelona 40%, it's all right. I would have expected it to be more, given that what we've seen previously. Nice as well, 62%. Why? 62% is ridiculous. Cinque Terre, this is nice to see. The hostel there wasn't the best, but I believe in that town that I stayed at, this was the only hostel available there. So an 8% increase in 2 years is great to see. Florence, this is insane as well, a 63% increase. That's, I don't know why, 63%. Same with Rome, 100%. It's doubled in prices. Honestly, I don't know why are they charging this amount of money. Venice, 17%. That's good to see. Milan, this takes the cake, 200%. I have no idea. I've double checked that this was exactly the correct dorm that I was looking at. It's not like a private room, but they're charging $179 for a bed in a 6-bed dorm. If anyone knows why the prices in Milan have gone insane, please let me know in the comments. I would very much like to know. And it's honestly surprising to me because, like, when I was in Milan, I had very little interest in the city. It's a very working city, so there's honestly not much to see. At least that's how I felt. You guys might feel differently, but I feel like Milan was not the most touristy or like the best city to visit in Milan, in Italy rather. Lucerne and Interlaken and Zermatt. So these are all in Switzerland, and given that Switzerland is known to be notoriously expensive, this amount of price is, I feel, warranted compared to the prices we've seen earlier. So 59% increase in Lucerne, 61% in Interlaken, and a 35% increase in Zermatt. Those prices can't be too mad at those. Switzerland is an expensive city. Now this is one that we can be mad at. Munich, 94% increase in price. I have no idea. Munich has a lot of hostels, so it's not like there's not enough supply there. Once again, I'm not sure why it's so expensive. It's not like Oktoberfest is happening during these dates. That happens a bit later in the month. So I'm not sure why the prices have gone up so much. Vienna, 53%. It's a bit much, but once again, what can you do? Budapest, 28%. I can see how that's possible. Krakow is crazy, but then again, to start with, $24, and this hostel gives you free beers, free breakfast, and free dinner for $24 a night. And now they're charging $41. I'd still say this is an absolute bargain. For that price increase, I still would say it's not too bad. Prague is alright, 29%, reasonable. Berlin, 75%, that's insane. It's almost doubled in price, $57 to $100 a night. Amsterdam surprised me. Amsterdam is known to be a more touristy and more expensive city. So a 28% price increase is nice to see. Brussels, I don't know. Maybe it's got something to do with the Olympics, given its close proximity to France. But then again, I'm not sure. 74% price increase. I don't think that's warranted at all. And then this is honestly surprising. Like, so towards the end, you can see that this is obviously going to be past when the Olympics have happened. We've gone from $80 a night in 2022 to $108 per night in 2024. So only a 36% increase. So just some totals so you guys can get an understanding of how much the prices have increased. The average hostel price per night that I paid in 2022 was $59.86. Now, I feel like this is like a really good price for hostels in Europe. If you are looking at like equivalent hotels, I'd say they're easily going to be triple or quadruple the price of this. So if you are a budget traveler, hostels still remain the best option. And then in 2022, the total for 3 months of travel in hostels was $4,869. Now, if we look at 2024 prices, we can see that the average has gone up to $95.98. And this is the average of all the hostels, giving us a total price for 3 months of $7,826 and a 61% increase on average. So this is honestly pretty insane to think about. I wouldn't be surprised if some hostels are more expensive than budget hotels at this point. And I think it just goes to show that hostels are overall becoming a more popular option, especially for solo travelers. They were always known to be like more affordable and very like bare bones accommodation, but I feel like the main selling point of hostels now is that you have that community aspect. You can make friends and meet new people very easily. So I think that's the main selling point, pushing people to stay in hostels even if it's getting more and more expensive, because you can't really put a price on making friends and meeting people. That's basically the prices that I've seen in 2024. It was just a little experiment that I wanted to do and see how prices have gone up in the 2 years, and it's honestly pretty shocking to see. So it's only going to get more expensive in the future, so if you're going to travel, may as well travel now. Don't hold off. But I will leave you with some tips on how you can save some money, especially when it comes to booking hostels. And this is all information that I've gathered from my own travels, as well as learning from other travelers that I've met, as well as people that work at the hostels as well. So the first one is obviously going to be to book in advance. The closer you get to the date that you want to stay at the hostel, it's going to become more and more expensive. For my 2022 trip, I started booking hostels about 1.5 months earlier, because some hostels don't advertise that they're available for booking up around until that date range. So that's the first tip: try and book in advance. Another benefit of booking in advance is that you'll have a better chance of getting into the more popular and good hostels, because those do tend to get booked out far in advance. The next tip that I have is to wait for sales. So I primarily book my hostels through Hostel World, and often they'll have 5% to, I've seen, up to like 25% off sales. I haven't really found a way to like track these. It really comes down to luck. If there is a way, please let me know in the comments, and I'll be glad to have that information. But that's the second tip: just wait for sales. Don't rush to book something if there is a hostel that you want to book. Maybe if you come again to the Hostel World a couple days later, it might offer you a discount. The third tip I have is to check through the actual hostel sites as well. So I know that Hostel World is like the main sort of hostel booking website, but if you go to the actual hostel's website, you might find that they offer a more cheaper price. It might just make the booking process a bit less seamless, because you have bookings done all over the place as opposed to just in Hostel World. But if you want to save cash, that is an option that you can try, to book directly with the hostel. So the next tip I have is to stay in Airbnbs or budget hotels if they are cheaper than some of the hostels. So on the previous slide, we looked at how expensive some of the cities are, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of the budget hotels especially, even if they're like a bit further out from the city, are going to be cheaper than the hostels. So make sure you just have a check of those when you are booking. The next tip I have is that you can try extend your stay within the hostel. This may or may not work with like the chain hostels, but I know if there's like a private hostel that's just like a one-off run by like a individual or a family, they'd be more likely to cut you a deal if you were trying to extend your stay for whatever reason, because you're already there, you've already got the bed, so they might be more inclined to give you a discount if you want to extend your stay at that hostel. The next tip I have is to use coupons and vouchers. I know an example is that any hostels that fall under the one fam sort of group, they give you these wristbands, and the more wristbands you have, I believe they give you like a 5% discount. I'm not sure on the exact amount, but they do have these schemes where if you do book with the same group of hostels, they can offer you a discount. Another tip I have, which I feel is pretty obvious, but just another thing to mention, is that travel during the off-peak. So for most cities in Europe and probably around the world, summertime is the peak travel time. So avoid the summertime, either come like later in the summer or before the summer starts, and prices will be much cheaper. Some hostels also offer discounts. I know the youth hostels group, they have discounts, especially if you're a student, so make sure you check those out. Another tip I have is to stay in larger dorm rooms. So most dorm rooms are about 4 to about 12 beds, but there are hostels that have like 20, 30 plus beds as well. And the general rule is that the more beds there are in the dorm, the cheaper it will be. So I have made a video discussing hostels in depth, especially which hostel you should stay in, which I'll link above. And the last tip I have is to check the actual cashback sites. So there's lots of cashback sites out there. Some popular ones in Australia are Shopback. I believe there's an app just called Cashback as well. So those offer discounts where you can book through them, and they'll give you like a percentage of the price back. Usually it's a small amount, but any amount helps when you're booking hostels. That concludes the video. It was just a little experiment that I was doing just to see how the prices have changed, and obviously it is very sobering to see some of these prices, but once again, you can't really put a price on travel. It is such a fulfilling and amazing opportunity that you get to do, and if you are thinking of traveling, especially solo traveling and staying in hostels, I can 100% recommend it. So thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments, feel free to drop them down below, and I'll see you in the next video.